Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled How Yisra'el Became a Spiritual Nation. How the Torah of Yahushua Messiah created a spiritual nation bearing good fruit. The podcast objectives are restate the downfall of ignorance, reveal how Yahushua dispels darkness and ignorance from the earth, reveal how false Hebrews were never in the nation of Israel, and analyze the spiritual nature of the renewed nation of Yisra'el. Welcome. Now, before we begin today's lesson, I would like to welcome all my beloved brothers and sisters in Yahushua Messiah who have been scattered to the four corners of the earth, who Yahuwah has joined to this ministry for such a time as this. I would also like to welcome anyone who is engaging our podcasts or videos for the first time. We trust you were led by the set apart spirit in finding us. And if you continue to be led, we hope you stay with us. For these are troubling times, and an evil day is just ahead. To this end, if you are watching this video on YouTube and you have not subscribed to our channel, click the subscribe button below, and you will be alerted whenever we post new videos. Also, if you have any questions at the conclusion of this video, you can ask them using the link in the podcast description below the video player. Last but not least, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up so YouTube can share it with believers like us. They were perishing before they were destroyed. Shalom, my beloved brothers and sisters, and welcome back to our Word from a Watchman series. In our most recent lesson, we concluded our evaluation of the Torah of Moshe and the Torah of Yahushua Messiah after completing 7 podcasts. And by the wisdom of Elohim, we came to a decisive conclusion. To wit, there is no controversy between the Torah of Moshe and the Torah of Yahushua Messiah. And yet, there is a key inflection, which I will offer as a treasure box. Get this. The Torah of Yahushua Messiah adds critical analysis to the critical concepts of the Torah of Moshe, elevating it to a higher spiritual plane. In doing so, the Torah of Yahushua Messiah does 2 things the Torah of Moshe cannot do because it was not designed to do. First, the Torah of Yahushua Messiah addresses the why factor of sin. In doing so, it reveals the source of all sin, and it empowers you to eliminate sin at its source. Secondly, the Torah of Yahushua Messiah, i.e., the Torah of freedom, frees you from the pain and the penalties prescribed by the letter of the law. Now, as I say, these are 2 crucial matters that the Torah of Moshe could not address because, again, it was not designed to address them. And because the priesthood constantly operated outside of the spirit of the law, the nation became ignorant. Here lies the problem. Vis-a-vis, ignorance is the first of the 16 deadliest degrees of lawlessness. To wit, it is the first step you take on the path to destruction. For it blinds your eyes to knowledge while leading you to a point of no return. That's the key, my friends, and a matter you must receive if you are to fully appreciate the need for the Torah of Yahushua Messiah. Ergo, I will offer it to you as a revelation. Receive this word of truth. Even though the former nation was given the Torah of Moshe and a priesthood to teach them the divine order of Elohim, they were destroyed for lack of knowledge. To wit, they had everything they needed to obtain knowledge, and yet they were both unable and unwilling to receive knowledge. And thus they were perishing even before Yahuwah destroyed them. For look, listen, it has been written, my people have perished for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I reject you from being priest for me. Look again, my friend, and listen. Listen. Therefore, my people have gone into captivity because they have no knowledge, and their esteemed men are starved, and their crowd dried up with thirst. Therefore, Sheol has made itself wide and opened its mouth without law. Now, look again and listen. Listen, for my people are foolish. They are stupid children, and they have no understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good, they have no knowledge. Now, understanding how the Torah of Moshe is the foundation of the Torah of Yahushua Messiah, it is somewhat of a paradox that a nation who was given the Torah would be thoroughly infected with ignorance and severely lacking in knowledge. And thus, we must address this paradox. And in doing so, we will see clearly how Yisra'el became a spiritual nation. Let's get started. When the instructed are not instructed. Now, first things first, we have already touched on this matter in The Divided Nation of Israel, Part 6, which was posted on September 24th, 2025. In that podcast, we came to see how we are living in a night of ignorance and darkness. Not only this, but we also came to see how the ignorance and darkness that has covered the earth for many thousands of years is a direct result of the failure of the former nation. To wit, the Torah of Moshe had the power and the potential to lighten the world. However, the Torah was weak through the flesh. Ergo, the potential of the Torah was never realized at the national level due to the spiritual degeneracy of the former nation. And thus, there was no hope for the Torah to be realized at the global level. This led to thousands of years of ignorance and darkness that began to dissipate when Yahushua came onto the scene. For look, listen, it has been written, the people who were walking in darkness have seen a great light. Upon those who dwelt in the land of the shadow of death, a light has shone. Look again, my friends, and listen. You are a set apart nation, a people for a possession, that you should proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, who once were not a people, but are now the people of Elohim. Now, after considering these verses and everything we have learned about the order of the Torah, the question we should chiefly entertain is this: how did Yahushua Messiah become the light of the world? That is to ask, how did he begin to dispel all the darkness and ignorance that had plagued the earth for many thousands of years? The answer is sure, and I will offer it to you as a treasure box. By operating within the spirit of the law, Yahushua unlocked the power and the potential of the Torah of Moshe. This led to truth and knowledge, the two key ingredients required to dispel the darkness and the ignorance that had covered the earth. Now, as I say, this was something a competent priesthood could have and should have done throughout the history of our nation. But the priesthood, like the Torah, was weak through the flesh, which is why it also needed an upgrade. And yet, it would require a perfect man who, A, was filled with the Ruach of Elohim, and B, had overcome the weakness of the flesh. Enter Yahushua Messiah, the perfect man for the job of perfecting the priesthood and unlocking the power and the potential of the Torah. Remember, the former nation was governed by the Torah for more than 1,000 years. And yet, after all that time, they were destroyed because they had no knowledge. In effect, they had the instruction, but they were not being instructed. Here again, it's a paradox and one that speaks to the limitations of the Torah of Moshe, which we have addressed in prior podcasts. To wit, the power and potential of the Torah was concealed within the spirit of the law. This is why Yahushua excelled where no man before or after him has excelled. It is because he, being filled with the Ruach of Elohim, was one with the spirit of the law. For look, listen, it has been written, I come to open the blind eyes of ignorance, to rescue the captives confined in dungeons of delusion, and to free men from the shackles of the flesh. I come to quicken the dead in Ruach. My dear friends, this is the Torah of Yahushua Messiah, and all who resist his Torah are blinded by ignorance, dead in Ruach, and confined in delusion, for they are being held fast by the shackles of the flesh. Instructions that have the power to kill. Now, we came to see how Yahushua unlocked the power and the potential of the Torah in the most recent podcast. To wit, we thoroughly analyzed how he upgraded the Torah in the case of adultery. Remember, the Torah teaches concepts and it exposes sin. However, the Torah does not provide adequate analysis and procedure for sins. That is, the understanding of why we sin and how we can stop sinning, and seeing how sin is a deal breaker when it comes to everlasting life. Yahuwah sent his only brought forth Son to teach us why we sin and how we can stop sinning. This is the light that shines through the darkness, and this is the knowledge that eliminates all ignorance. In the books of the Nazarene, chapter 7, 8 through 9, Yahushua is saying, I am the light, illuminating Yahuwah's Torah so men see it more clearly. And though I fulfill the Torah, I do not change it. I bring new oil for the lamp of the Torah, for that within it is now impure, and the light produces too much obscuring smoke. Books of the Nazarene, 13:16 through 22. You have the Torah, but it is either disobeyed, ignored, or circumvented. Therefore, it is nullified and rendered ineffective. You are so accustomed to devious thinking, trying to make a yes into a no to suit your convenience, that when given truth, you pull it apart, seeking to find something else behind it. Unless you accept these things as would a child, you cannot hope to enter the kingdom of Yahuwah. Books of the Nazarene, 16:46 through 49. Those who distort the Torah of Yahuwah to suit their own ends or twist them to serve unintended purposes shall not be overlooked at the accounting. Many are the devious roads followed by the hypocrites, for this is a wrongful interpretation of the Torah. All these things I give you that they may be established and added to the Torah, so that henceforth they be used in judgments among the just. Now, there are three key points the Ruach is leading me to make from these passages. And these are not new points. On the rather, they are 3 points he desires you to always remember concerning these matters. First of all, these passages and others prove that Yahushua did not come to change or destroy the Torah. On the rather, he provided clarification of the Torah during a night of ignorance. He revealed its true meaning and purpose during a night of darkness, which is why he is the light of the world. As I say, he added critical analysis to critical concepts, for the Torah was constantly being violated by the majority within the former nation. As it is written, the Torah was disobeyed, ignored, or circumvented by the former nation, which brings me to my second point, vis-a-vis, even without Yahushua lighting the Torah had the power to lead men into the truth. However, the majority didn't want the truth. As it is written, when given truth, you pull it apart, seeking to find something else behind it. This speaks to the vice of self-truth, which we analyze in the progression of death. And this brings me to my third and final point, to wit, the reason why the majority in this nation, past and present, have rejected Yahushua Messiah and his Torah is because they resist the truth. For, as I have said before and often, they can't handle the truth. This is why false Hebrews boast in the Torah while they break the Torah. It's because the Torah can be distorted, it can be violated, and it can be circumvented. However, this is not the case for the Torah of perfection. For look, listen, it has been written, the Torah was given through Moshe, but the favor of Elohim and truth came through Yahushua Messiah. Look again, my friend, and listen. Listen. The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. This was from Yahuwah, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Because of this, I say to you, the reign of Elohim shall be taken from you and given to a nation bringing forth the fruits of it. And he who falls on this stone shall be broken, but on whomever it falls, it will grind him into powder. Now, these things being what they surely are, Yahuwah is leading me to make a final appraisal of these matters as we cross over another dividing line. And I will offer it to you as a revelation. This is one I advise you to bookmark and to share as you are led. The false Hebrews are following the same destructive path of the former nation which Yahuwah destroyed. To wit, they are violating the Torah of Moshe to suit their carnal desires and their delusions. No doubt, this is an act of desecration and blasphemy that won't be forgiven, for the Ruach of Elohim is the spirit of the law. Not only this, but there is a difference between the false Hebrews that destroyed the former nation and the false Hebrews who, being under the curse of this captivity, were never in the nation. To wit, the former nation were given the Torah of Moshe at a time when it was novel and progressive, while the false Hebrews today are going backwards into mangling outdated instructions that have the power to kill. And yet they do not have the power to save. And this is only one fraction of the strong delusion they are under. As I say, this delusion is from Elohim, and it is marvelous in our eyes. For we are Yisra'el, and these false Hebrews were never in this nation. A light to all the nations. Now, the reason why the false Hebrews in the dying nation of Israel are not in this nation is sure. It is because Yisra'el is a spiritual nation. We know this because the renewed nation is established upon the Torah of Yahushua Messiah. And the Torah of Yahushua Messiah is established upon the spirit of the law. For look, listen, it has been written, but you are not in the flesh, but in the spirit. If indeed the spirit of Elohim dwells in you, and if anyone does not have the spirit of Messiah, this one is not his. My dear friends, this is why Yahushua Messiah revealed that the reign of Elohim would be taken from the former nation of Israel, which is dead, and given to a nation bringing forth the fruits of it, to wit, a spiritual nation which, unlike the former, would bring forth good fruit. This is why Peter reveals that the men and women within the renewed nation of Israel were called out of a night of ignorance and darkness into the marvelous light of Yahushua Messiah. And although we were once not a people, we are now the people of Elohim. Now, it is crucial that you understand that the renewed nation, being a spiritual nation, is not limited to the physical descendants of Jacob. Quite the contrary, the renewed nation consists of men and women from every nation on this earth. This is in line with the scope of the Torah of Yahushua Messiah. For look, listen, it has been written, I, Yahuwah, have called you in righteousness, and I guard you and give you for a covenant to a people, for a light to the nations. Look again, my friends, and listen. Listen. I shall give you as a light to the nations, to be my deliverance to the ends of the earth. Now, these passages harden Yahuwah's vision for global righteousness. To wit, it was never his plan to limit salvation to the former nation of Yisra'el, which is why he constantly refers to Yahushua as a light to all the nations. Not only this, but all the nations were waiting for Yahushua to bring right ruling to all the earth. Isaiah 42, 1 through 4 is revealing. See, my servant whom I uphold, my chosen one, my being has delighted in. I have put my spirit upon him. He brings forth right ruling to the nations. He brings forth right ruling in accordance with truth. He shall not fail, nor become discouraged till he establishes right ruling in the earth, and the coastlands wait for his Torah. Now, these verses confirm that the light of Yahushua Messiah was always intended to lighten every nation in the earth. Not only this, but Isaiah prophesies that the nations were waiting for the Torah of Yahushua Messiah and the rule of Elohim on the earth. My dear friends, while the former nation was distorting the Torah and mangling it without end, the rest of the world was waiting for the Torah of Yahushua Messiah, i.e., the Torah of freedom for many thousands of years. Think about that. And now, think about this. The nation of Israel that was, is now gone, and it will never be again. All that remains is a spiritual nation, a renewed nation, a truth nation that is on the verge of ushering the rule of Elohim into a renewed earth. Hallelujah. And if you believe that, I have good news for you. This is the focus of the next phase in my Watchmen series. My dear friends, we are going to take our unity to the next level, and we will begin to witness the rule of Elohim as we establish dominion in the earth. As I say, the kingdom of Elohim is coming, and we must be ready for it. For we are the renewed nation of Yisra'el, and the kingdom belongs to us. And so stay locked in as we resume our exposition of lawlessness next week. Yahuwah bless you until then. Now, here is the final word. We are a royal priesthood and a chosen generation, a peculiar people and a renewed nation. Brothers and sisters, hear me carefully as I say, from the very beginning of the restoration movement, the majority within this nation have maintained a physical perspective concerning spiritual matters. And more than anything, this is why they were never elected into the renewed nation of Yisrael. It's because they don't fear Elohim and they don't have his spirit. And although the spirit speaks expressly and can be heard by the chosen elect, the sound thereof is an echo of truth, and they cannot hear it. Heretofore, I recommend, don't ever stop leaning upon the Spirit to guide you, for our world is yet filled with ignorance, darkness, and night. And yet, if we continue in the Torah of Yahushua Messiah, we will be freed from all the ignorance and the darkness, for he is the truth and he is the light. Hallelujah. Now, here is today's assignment. Meditate on today's lesson. And if you have any questions, please submit them using the form at pinnacleofholiness.com. And I will respond to you as soon as I can. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, How Yisra'el Became a Spiritual Nation. And the next podcast is entitled End Times 540, The Impact of Ignorance and Deception, Part 10. I will post this podcast on Monday, December 15th, 2025. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim, continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming. The end is near.